And it's, there's 7 of them. And these people are going to create the AI in a very short period of time that is being trained on our individual data. We will use those tools continuously. We won't shut it off. And it will change who we are. It will make us different from Homo sapiens. It will make us hybrid human beings who act and think differently. I'm a little scared by that. I'm a little concerned by that. It's obviously also very exciting, but it's an enormous amount of power in the hands of a very small number of people, and it's something we need to spend a lot more time on.
Supporting it. 2 Democrats and 1 independent who caucuses with Democrats opposing the bill over providing offensive military aid to Israel. Those senators opposed to the way that Israel is fighting Hamas and the rising Palestinian civilian death toll. In Washington, I'm David Aid for NewsNet.
And President Joe Biden is urging the House to take up that bipartisan foreign aid bill, saying the bill provides urgent aid for Ukrainians who continue to defend themselves against Putin. Take a look.
So I call on the Speaker to let the full House speak its mind and not allow a minority of most extreme voices in the House to block this bill even from being voted on. This is a critical act for the House to move. It needs to move. The bill provides urgent funding for Ukraine.
Across the Atlantic, European countries have been increasing their military spending too. Their fear? A potential Russian invasion beyond Ukraine. New intelligence says that could happen in the next 10 years. International correspondent Ryan Thompson has more on this alarming new warning.
U.S. allies on NATO's border with Russia say Moscow is preparing for another war in Europe. A shocking new Estonian intelligence report released Tuesday, warning Russia is overhauling its armed forces, anticipating a possible conflict with the alliance within the next decade. That upgrade expected to resemble a, quote, Soviet-style mass army, with additional units bringing Moscow's armed forces to over 1.5 million. Inside Ukraine, Russia's military shows no signs of backing down. Moscow sending more and more troops to the front line, replenishing losses thanks to tough military enlistment rules. And those policies are likely to eventually move troops towards NATO's borders, the report suggests, especially those in the Baltics. Europe now simultaneously doubling down on new efforts to restart its military economy. German and Danish leaders breaking ground on this ammunition plant Monday amid fears that the upcoming presidential election could result in cuts to NATO support.
No matter what will happen in the U.S. in this year, I think the conclusion has to be written already now that Europe needs to be stronger and we need to be able to do more on our own. And I say that even though I'm a true believer in the transatlantic alliance.
And there's no doubt here that Russia and NATO are playing a tit-for-tat game,
2%.
flexing their military
That's
might.
all.
For its part, NATO is currently undergoing its largest expansion yet, with
They
2
pushed it
countries
around
either joining or
the way
set to
they
join
wanted
the alliance
to
within the
sound.
next year. Not to mention, a little bit farther from the cities, the largest set of anti-Russian drills are currently underway. In Paris, I'm Ryan Thompson for NewsNet.
Trump presidency if he tries to stop funding the war in Ukraine. This is something that Senator Rand Paul agrees with. Now, what would this mean if Trump does win his second term?
You know, the funny thing about this issue is everybody is expecting that Trump will win in November. They're all looking at the situation and they're saying, oh my gosh, Trump is coming back. And they're panicking. And I think J.D. Vance is right. I had not been aware of that issue until he tweeted about it. I went and I read his tweet, I read his letter, I looked at the language in the bill, and there really is a poison pill in there. They're setting up Trump so that if he says we are not going to spend this money in Ukraine again, that they can impeach him on the same grounds of the phony impeachment, whatever year that was, 2020? 2019, 2020, when they impeached him before. They expect him to win, and this is one of who knows how many hundreds or perhaps thousands of preparations that they're making so that they can undermine him again when he's president again.
Quite fascinating indeed. Bart Marcois, thank you so much for your time.
Year, and it's set to rise even more in 2024. The London-based International Institute for Strategic Studies described a, quote, era of insecurity of resettling the global military-industrial landscape. It says beyond Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, there are also flashpoints to watch with North Korea, the Arctic Circle, and China. Tonight, the man responsible for destroying and stealing Jackie Robinson's statue is behind bars. Police say a 45-year-old man is charged with felony theft, among other charges. The bronze statue was cut at the figure's ankles and stolen from a youth league baseball facility in Wichita, Kansas. Police say they believe the motive wasn't racial, but rather because the bronze was seen as value. Now to the weather in the Northeast.
Yesterday, as it happens, I spoke on the phone with Paul Whelan. Our intensive efforts to bring Paul home continue every single day. And they will, until he and Evan Gershkovich and every other American wrongfully detained is back. So,
Paul Whelan detained in Russia for more than 5 years, and Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich has been there for 10 months.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard says it has successfully test-fired a number of ballistic missiles off a warship. State TV released this video. Iranian officials say the missiles have a range of more than 1,000 miles. U.S. military officials say today's demonstration was designed to send a clear message to Israel and the U.S. as the war in Gaza spreads tensions across the region.
Authorities in Kansas have made an arrest in the theft of a bronze statue of legendary baseball pioneer Jackie Robinson. Police arrested Ricky Alderte on Monday and charged him with theft. The statue was stolen from a park in Wichita back on January the 25th and later found dismantled and burned. Police say there's no evidence this was a hate crime. They say the reason behind the theft was to sell the metal for scrap. Police say arrests are expected in this case.
Please prevent the fretting. Bert, now trying to call a fire. A Sonoraville High School football player is being called a hero after helping save 2 men from a fiery crash. The crash happened in Gordon County last month. Cayman Reynolds says he would have taken his typical.
I'm going to be honest with you. I want a vehicle. So you got 2 options here. You can either give it to me, and we'll be cool. I'll just give you a ticket for it. Or, $1 million, I don't know, I'm going to find all of it.
Right after that, Antonio Lewis, what police say was an unsmoked blunt filled with 4 grams of weed. Although he didn't have to go to jail, Officer Kenneth Wilson cuffed the councilman and put him in the patrol car as he wrote up the tickets.
You said you're a city councilman? All right, man, you make sure you tell everybody Officer Wilson treated you fairly.
Wilson gave Lewis a ticket for marijuana possession and driving with a suspended registration and sent him on his way.
I appreciate you. That's why, man.
Sources of it is higher because it's cheaper to buy. Mexican cartels have been big in the illegal marijuana world, but Chinese pot operations have been a rising force in recent years, and quite a large number of them are run by Chinese crime organizations. Oklahoma has closed almost 1,000 marijuana farms in the past 3 years, and at least 80% of them are tied to organized Chinese crime rings. Authorities say these criminals are laundering millions of dollars back to countries, including China. The pot problem is setting off alarm bells in Washington. Lawmakers are concerned that Beijing may be directly supporting the illicit Chinese marijuana operations across the U.S. 50 lawmakers are asking the Justice Department for a briefing by late February. Law enforcement officials have reported challenges in busting these networks. What's more, investigators have found these illegal Chinese pot grows are tied to forced labor and human trafficking. The U.S. State Department is announcing new visa restrictions targeting people linked to the abuse of commercial spyware. How does the new policy affect China? NTD's Sam Wong has more.
Malware installed on your personal devices could be tracking your activities in real time without your knowledge. A new visa restriction announced by the U.S. State Department will target just that. It's part of a larger effort from the Biden administration to bring consequences for abusing commercial spyware. On the receiving end, those involved in using spyware to monitor, harass, or intimidate people like journalists and dissidents. The policy will also target companies and investors who have facilitated or contributed to the problem.
Process of paying fines and fees, court fees, probation, whatever that looks like. Scotty Smart is a community organizer with the New Georgia Project who's focused on correcting racial inequalities when it comes to marijuana laws. Having less than an ounce of weed hasn't been an arrestable crime in Atlanta since 2017. Same in cities like Athens, South Fulton, and Clark. Smart thinks all things considered, this is how it should go for Georgia. Atlanta has massive measures. I think we do have to take even further steps in its whole.
I appreciate it.
Just before 8, we had a sergeant was patrolling on Brotherton just behind me. The sergeant came across a vehicle parked on the side of the road. It appeared that the sergeant came across an active vehicle break-in in progress. When that called, glass on the ground, and a male subject in the back seat of that vehicle. During that encounter, the officer did discharge his firearm, striking the suspect. He was taken into custody, detained. We did recover a firearm on his person, and at this time, that male is at Grady Hospital undergoing treatment. He is stable and expected to recover from his injuries.
And back out here live, we do know that that sergeant is okay and the suspect is at Grady, and as you heard, is expected to be okay. Again, the GBI arrived on scene here just a few moments ago as we were standing here, and now their investigation is under. Now back out here live, I just want to give you some perspective of where we are. This is right next to Magic City down here in downtown Atlanta, right across the street from the Greyhound station and the MARTA station. As you guys mentioned, we're still learning more about what exactly happened here again, but we do believe, again, according to police, that a man they encountered was breaking into cars. They say that man was armed, and then they opened fire. We don't know exactly why they opened fire, but we are sure we're going to continue to press them for more information throughout the evening and bring you the very latest on Good Day Atlanta. For now, that is the latest from here, live in downtown Atlanta. Rob.
Who struck a man in a wheelchair and kept going. Police say it happened on Rainbow Drive off Candler Road last Friday. Fox 5's Joy Duke spoke with loved ones of the man who say they want that driver found.
Yeah, family members identified the victim as 55-year-old Will Jackson. They say he is in the hospital recovering from serious injuries, but that doctors credited his wheelchair with protecting him from what could have been a fatal crash.
If it wasn't for his motorized wheelchair, aka his Cadillac, it pretty much saved his life.
Latarcia Jackson says her brother Will Jackson is lucky to be alive after DeKalb County police say he and his Cadillac were struck by a white sedan just off Candler Road in Decatur last Friday.
He came to get some Chinese food. They told him he could not use the restroom, so he decided to come over to Chevron to use the restroom in his motorized wheelchair. A white car hit him and sped off and left him there.
Medics rushed him to the hospital for treatment. Jackson says she was angered to learn the person who was behind the wheel didn't stop to see if her brother was okay.
I didn't find out till the next day that he was in the hospital for fractured clavicle and broken ribs on his right side. It's hurtful that this world is so cruel these days, where no one won't take the time.
Jackson tells Fox 5 her brother is no stranger to cruising the street. That Chevron was just a few hundred feet away from the China cafeteria he made frequent visits to.
He has been traveling up and down County Road over 20 years. He's well known in his motorized wheelchair. Everybody know him as Junior in his Cadillac.
The short trip that took a dangerous turn leaves him with a long recovery process ahead.
It's going to be around 7 to 10 weeks for him to heal.
While she and her family are doing what they can to help him, she's hoping someone will help them identify the person responsible. Now I'm told investigators are checking with nearby businesses to see if there is any surveillance video from that time that could help them in this case. They are also asking anyone with information on a car that matches that description and may have some sort of damage that's visible to contact detectives. In DeKalb County, Joy Dukes, Fox 5 News.